What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to show you guys my new planted tank that I set up about 2 weeks ago. This is a UNS 5N, so it's a 4-gallon aquarium, very small. So I'm going to show you guys the aquarium in its current state and all the different problems I'm having. And then we're going to fast forward to the future and see what it looks like once it's all grown in. Stay tuned. This is the aquarium in its current state. And as I mentioned earlier, there are a number of issues which make it look not so great. I mean, it doesn't look terrible. I think we can all agree on that, but it doesn't look great. It doesn't look like the vision I had in mind when I created it. So let's take a look. The first issue we have is this brown filamentous algae growing kind of everywhere. It's on the spiderwood, it's on the glass, it's on the CO2 diffuser, it's everywhere. So that's one issue, which is, kind of unfortunate, but it's typical with new tanks. The next issue is that this spiderwood is starting to grow this white fungus. You can see a little bit of it here and here. That, again, is totally normal for a new tank with spiderwood. It just does that. Eventually, it will go away on its own. Additionally, there is some, I think this is mold growing out of the water just because it's kind of moist there. So I'm gonna scrape that off and just hope it doesn't come back. The last issue, I set it up 2 weeks ago. I was hoping at this point it would be more grown in, but unfortunately it's not. So we just gotta be patient. Some good news is that I can see that some of the dwarf hairgrass is starting to spread, which is cool. You can see a lot of algae in that dwarf hairgrass. Anyways, additionally, I think the stem plants are doing pretty well. These are Rotala. I don't remember which type, but I actually already cut these and replanted the tops of them to get more of a bushy look once it grows in. So we'll see how that goes. So now I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna keep up with my normal maintenance, changing water, scraping a little bit of algae here and there. And then we're gonna fast forward and see what it looks like once it's all grown in, lush, beautiful. All right, welcome back. It has now been around 4 to 5 weeks, and I think the tank is looking a lot better. It's done a lot of maturing, as have I, but I'm gonna focus on the tank in this video. So let's take a closer look and see what's happened, what's changed, and what issues we still have. So the tank has progressed quite nicely over the last few weeks. You can see the dwarf hairgrass is really starting to carpet. It's not quite a carpet yet, but I know it'll fill in probably in another 4 or 5 weeks. Just goes to show you how much patience planted tanks require. Not as much as like saltwater reef coral tanks, but yeah, you still got to wait a long time to get stuff like plants to carpet. The Anubias and the Boosts are doing pretty well. They're pretty slow, or not slow, but like medium growing plants, definitely on the slower end. So I found that I had to move them down from like the top shelf where they were down here to reduce the amount of light they were getting, because they were getting like algae on their leaves. Let's see if I can find any left. There's some green spot algae on that Boost's leaf. So yeah, I just had to move them down. First, I dipped them in hydrogen peroxide, and I think they're doing a lot better where they are. I've also been dosing Flourish Excel in this tank daily, just to try and help with some of the algae I'm having. I don't know if it's really making a difference, to be honest, because I still see algae. But yeah. I figure it can't really hurt, I guess. If you guys know of any like adverse side effects of using this stuff, let me know. But the plants don't seem to mind. The shrimp are all totally fine, busy scurrying around, looking for food. So I think it's all good. I also added this hydrocotyl tripartita, which is just going, or really starting to take off. Sorry about the reflection. So it's growing in pretty nicely and pretty quickly, and I really like the look of it, actually. I almost think I don't really need all this booch mixed in here. I could just do hydrocotyl all throughout here. And it grows these really cool offshooty, I guess, plantlets, which I think looks really nice as well. The Rotala is doing really good. This stuff grows really, really fast, and it's really red. I forgot the variety. Maybe I'll try and find it and put it in the video description. But yeah, this stuff grows really, really fast. So what I've been doing is like when it starts to get to the water's surface, I trim it. Otherwise, it'll like fold over on the water's surface and it just doesn't look great in my opinion. I've also been trying to trim it in kind of a U shape or a rainbow shape, kind of like that. But as you can see, I'm not the best like hairstylist, so yeah, I got to work on that. All right, moving on. What else is going on? The S. repens is growing, but it's growing really, really slowly. It seems like it grows faster in my other tanks. I mean, not a whole lot faster, but definitely faster. So I wonder if it's just being shaded a lot by this big spiderwood structure. And so maybe could use some more light. I'm going to be patient with it though. I'm going to keep waiting and hope that it eventually fills in and I get a nice bushy ring of S. repens kind of wrapping around the spiderwood. That's kind of my vision. So yeah, things are looking pretty good. Oh, I forgot to mention, in addition to the Flourish Excel, I've also been dosing like a tiny little bit of fertilizer. A little bit of this stuff goes a super long way. So like in my bigger tank, I'll do one whole squirt or pump with this. In this tank, I just try and do like a tiny quarter squirt. Like, I'll see if I can do it on camera. Like that, just like that. I try and be a little bit conservative with this because this is, in addition to plant fertilizer, it is also algae fertilizer. So I try and just basically give as much as the plants need. And I do this kind of just by eyeballing. I don't measure anything. I just look at the plants and how much algae there is. And if I feel like it's too much, I'll just skip doing this for the day or the next 2 days or 3 days or whatever, just until I see that that balance is starting to come back between plants and algae. Ideally, you should have plant growth and minimal algae growth. So that's kind of my goal. CO2 diffuser is at this point getting a little bit clogged up. So you can see that the bubble rate or like the bubbles coming out of there are larger and there aren't very many of them. So I've got to take that one out, replace it, and then clean this one. So I really haven't found a good way to clean these CO2 diffusers, these ceramic ones. Honestly, up until this point, I usually just buy new ones every like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. But they're not that cheap. They're like 15 bucks. So if you guys know of a good way to clean these, like I've tried scrubbing them with toothbrushes and doing all sorts of other stuff. But it always seems to stay clogged. So definitely let me know in the comments if you know a better way to clean those. Okay, so here is what the old diffuser looked like. You can see it is super gunked up with algae. So I guess I'm gonna try and clean it. Maybe like soak it in peroxide or bleach or something. I don't know. Unfortunately, the diffuser I wanted to use, this Twin Star CO2 diffuser, which is really cool and really small. I thought it fit this tank really well. But you can see I used quite a bit of gusto while trying to connect it to the hard pipe. So it broke, which sucks. I was literally just complaining about how buying these every few months is kind of expensive and I don't like doing it. And I broke one all on my own. So that's unfortunate, but luckily I did have another one. It's pretty big for this tank, but I think it'll work for the time being. And you can see like how many more and how many more bubbles and how much finer the bubbles are. So yeah, I think when they gunk up like this, your CO2 diffusion into the water kind of drops off. And that's really not good for things like blackbeard algae, from what I've heard, can thrive on fluctuating levels of CO2. So I try and clean these or replace them, mostly replace them when they get gunked up, just to keep the CO2 consistent in the tank. So one issue I've been having is with this stringy green algae that typically, at least in this tank, grows in the dwarf hairgrass. It's kind of annoying, but luckily it's pretty easy to like clean and remove. So I've had this happen in the past, and all I've done is like taken it out with a toothbrush like this, and eventually it stopped coming back. I'll see if I can pull up a bunch. Should be able to. You can see it pulling on the hair grass. Yeah. So I just kind of pull it and then twist with the toothbrush. So luckily it's not like blackbeard algae where it's super stubborn and hard to remove. This stuff actually comes off pretty easily. So every so often I've been just getting in there with the toothbrush and cleaning it off. So I'm hoping at some point it'll stop coming back. I think it will. You can also see all these like copepods all over the glass in the rock, or not rock, wood. I'm pretty sure they're copepods. So yeah, it's kind of cool when you don't have fish in the tank, when you just have shrimp. You'll get all of this like microfauna that develops, which is kind of cool to watch. So I still don't know if at some point I want to put fish in here. It's like a 4 or 5 gallon tank. If you guys know of any fish like I could put in here and you think would look cool, drop a comment and let me know. Because I think having fish is always cool. It always adds a lot of interest to the tank. And then also whenever people come over and look at my tanks, they're like, where's the fish? There's no fish in this. So I try not to do things for other people, but yeah, I think a fish would be cool to have in this tank. So still deciding on that one. Wow, we got a bunch of it. And look how long it is too. Look how, this is going to be crazy. Dude, it's like a foot long. Nuts. Put that in there. All right, I tried to replace some of the Anubias, but I really did a terrible job here. It doesn't look great. So I need to find other places to stuff those. The other thing I noticed just while I was taking this video was that actually there is some Java moss that snuck its way into this build. I did not intentionally put it in here. It must have been on plant roots or, yeah, I can't think of what else. So it doesn't really bother me. I think it'll look nice growing on the wood. But yeah, just something to keep an eye on, I guess, because it does grow pretty thickly and quickly. So it can like quickly cover stuff. Like in my other tank, it's just growing all over the wood. So overall, this tank is looking a lot better. It's still not quite where I think it could be in terms of growth, aesthetic, all that kind of stuff. But it's definitely taken a few steps in the right direction. So I'll continue to do updates on this tank in the future. So yeah, I hope you liked the video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing for new videos every week on all of my aquariums, saltwater, freshwater, everything. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.